Welcome to Wrasslin Raw! All right, you're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you deep in the heart of Texas. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
What a beautiful specimen.
Joe Giamateo.
Let's record this show ninja style.
Yes. Yeah, those aficionados, the martial arts aficionados out there will know what you mean.
Yes.
I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to keep on examining world-class championship wrestling here in one of our interim episodes. But before we get to that, Joseph, very good to have you here on the outside with us.
Yep. We had to bust him out. We snuck into the Netflix prison, and we busted him out. Like Mad Dog Murdoch from the A-Team.
Luckily, I have Clarence Mason on retainer, so I should be fine.
Good to go.
Yeah.
Keep the damages to a minimum that way. Well, it just wasn't the same without you, buddy. And let me tell you that I'm very excited to hear your thoughts and opinions on world-class championship wrestling.
We've got a humdinger.
Yeah.
Just so our listeners know, this is available on Peacock for those of you that are able to find things on the cock there. But also, this is available on a YouTube channel called The Wrasslin Channel. That's Wrasslin with an R. So available in both places. So please go out there, check it out, see what we're talking about here if you are so inclined. I don't know about you guys, but after I get through my notes here, the listeners probably won't be so inclined to check out this particular episode. But who knows? Different strokes for different folks. People have different tastes, and some people might have actually liked this one. I fucking hated it.
And that's the show, everybody.
I'll say I thought there was at least one serviceable match.
Yes.
Oh, you do,
I'll give you that. I'll give you that. Guess who's going to Netflix jail next?
Well, nothing will get edited.
Yeah.
Good. That means we won't have to watch anymore.
In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the episode of World Class Championship Wrestling that aired or was recorded on January 9th, 1982, recorded at the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas, and features Gene Goodson and Fritz Von Erich on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then let's get into it. For our listeners, this would be Season 1, Episode 3 of World Class Championship Wrestling on the Cock. And during the intro to this, I didn't notice this the last time we watched this, but I'm pretty glad that we are missing some of the matches that they used for the stock footage here, because those looked terrible.
What do you mean?
Well, the music just carries it. That's the thing, is the music carries me through it, and I was too busy slamming and breaking my neck.
Best part of the episode, the music.
Yes.
And that's our show, everyone.
This week, though, rather than Jose Lothario on color commentary, we have the patriarch of Dallas, Fritz Von Erich. And while Gene Goodson is running through the card there, we got the very disappointing news that not only will Jose Lothario be in the ring tonight, it's going to be in tag team action paired with Tom Boogaloo Shaft.
Jeez. For anyone that listened to our last episode, Boogaloo Shaft isn't a high-caliber wrestler, to put it nicely.
One good thing deserves another. Gene Goodson really ends up shitting the bed here in the end of this segment. Almost like he lost his train of thought. You could see Fritz Von Erich's desire to just verbally berate and abuse Goodson plainly on his face. He didn't do it here, but he will wind up getting there throughout the episode.
And probably after the show.
And that's it for the starting segment here. Joe, I wanted to go to you first because as Ryan and I both found out the last time we sat down together to watch World Class, this is obviously an older, more bare bones production. There's nothing that one could call sports entertainment anywhere within this. What were your first impressions from this intro segment?
So you're saying you found out that it is not, in fact, world-class entertainment.
It is a misnomer.
I was searching for this on the Cock, and while searching, I saw those Ric Flair studio promos from, what was it, WCW or Mid-South? I can't remember, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Those promos where he's like holding up his shoes and shit on the thumbnail, and I thought... Oh, what could have been? We could have been watching that, but
This is not that.
This is not that. But the intro video, the music is funky as hell. I heard that and I was like, "Oh shit, this is really good." I'm shocked with this music.
New ringtone.
Yeah, a new alarm every day. But yeah, I enjoyed seeing the wardrobes of the 1982 crowd. It's very vintage footage here, and Fritz Von Erich looks pretty dapper. I think it's nice to see him there. It's obviously his promotion, so he's kind of like the Vince McMahon of WCCW, so I guess it's kind of nice to see him there.
Yeah, and I guess my words are Gene Goodson lived up to how I described him last time. He fucking sucks. As I said last time, I think he only lasts 4 episodes, or maybe is even gone before the 4th episode from what I read. So maybe him shitting the bed here with Fritz by his side was the last straw before he got kicked out the door. But still excited to see what's going on, because like you, Joe, it's kind of cool to see this 1982 timeline or snapshot, because as, again, me and Bartlett mentioned last time, this is the year we were all born, all 3 of us, in 1982. So kind of cool to see that year. It's a special year for all 3 of us.
Yeah, I lost whatever rose-colored glasses I had for the first episode in this one, so I don't know what else to say. I dare say that the 3 of us are the only good thing that came out of 1982, if this is the track that we're following. So, all right, let's keep it going into our first match of the night. Captain Frank Dusek with Wild Bill Irwin defeats Wrasslin Castro by pinfall. Wild Bill Irwin struck me as a knockoff of Wild Bill Hickok, but without pants. Captain Frank Dusek was touted as being a prolific manager here by Goodson on commentary. Not sure why he's here in a singles match wrestling instead of just managing, but...
It's kind of like having the Jackal in a match.
Yeah, this was a different time, I guess. Wrasslin Castro reminded me of a muscle guy. You know, those little pink rubber figures they sold back in the 80s?
Yeah.
This guy was like the literal definition of nondescript. He was wearing a mask, he was average height, average build. The only thing that wasn't average was his talent. It was well below average.
Well, and he looked like Fidel Castro, of course.
No, that's the other guy.
That's the other guy, yeah.
That's not named Castro.
That's right. I'm getting them mixed up here.
Easily confused with their below average talent.
The worst part about Wrasslin Castro, though, is that in terms of the visual, Castro was much better than Captain Frank Dusek. Dusek must have been captain of the poop ship destroyer because he looked like total shit in just about every way. This was meth teeth before meth teeth were fashionable, hidden underneath the porn star mustache and male pattern baldness. And a horrible series into a horrible DDT that was sold horribly is what got Captain Frank Dusek the pin and the win here. Also, just to throw it in there, commentary, terrible throughout the match. Ryan, please, were there any redeeming qualities to this match that you could find?
No, it was pretty much shit from the get-go, this one.
From the shit-go.
They looked like a pair of wrestlers who literally have never practiced or worked together in their life. Like, their timing was just completely off. Like, when one was stepping one way, the other one was stepping the other. Like, they just had no clue what was going on. And to further my point from the last time we covered a WCCW event, they're not big on physiques for most of these people, because neither one of these really looked like an actual wrestler. And Frank, he looked like they pulled him out of just some local bar somewhere.
That's exactly
like,
what I wrote down, yeah.
A complete lack of anything resembling a physique. Unfortunately, Frank D. Trailer Park picked up the victory here, but nothing to write home about, that's for sure.
Yeah, Dusek looks sloppy and stiff and not in a working stiff kind of way, just stiff body, no athleticism whatsoever, no flexibility whatsoever. Yeah, it looks like he just crawled out of a fucking bar.
Couldn't touch his toes.
Yes, looks like absolute shit. And he won the match, so that tells everybody everything you need to know.
Yeah. Not just about the match, but about Raw Castro, too. My God. That poor guy. I think it's funny. You guys said he looked like he came out of a bar. I thought he looked like something that got pulled out of a trawler's drag net coming out of the bay. The bay down there. My God. Bloated is what I'm talking about.
One thing that really threw me off, too, in my memory about who looked like Fidel Castro isn't this Fidel Castro brother's name? Raul Castro? Wasn't that his brother?
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. You might be right on that, actually. That does sound correct.
Actually, I think it might have been Raul Castro, his brother.
Yeah, Raul. Yeah, that's how you pronounce it.
Okay.
But it's the same name.
Why isn't he the one that looks like Fidel Castro then? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, because he looks like a muscle man. That's his gimmick. All right. So let's go to this mid-match interview segment that was up next. Gene's sweaty polyester ass introduced us to Jose Lothario, who then introduced us to Big Daddy Bundy.
Holy shit.
Jose Lothario was fucking horrible here. Gene was no good at setting anything up for anybody. Jose tried to make a direct comparison between Bundy and Andre the Giant, saying that Bundy was second in raw physical strength only behind Andre, causing Gene Goodson to have a brief stroke while trying to remember stats about Andre the Giant.
7'5".
You could see his eyes briefly rolling into the back of his head while he was trying to think of those numbers. Bundy looked young as hell here, and he did an all right job dropping his New Jersey accent for this as he cut a babyface promo putting over the promotion.
That wasn't an Alaskan
Well, he tried
accent?
for the Alaskan accent. He didn't sound like Jersey, though, so I guess that's half a win.
Yeah, that's something.
Bundy's only gripe here is that Jose or the Von Erichs or somebody occasionally tries to get him to change his style. Ryan, last time we watched World Class, we got to see Big Daddy Bundy in the ring, and this time we got a promo out of him, and much like that last time, I thought he was still the only halfway decent thing in the first half of the show. What did you have on the promo segment here?
I wouldn't disagree with you here. I thought Bundy looked okay. His backstory about being a oil-filled worker from Alaska, that's a decent backstory for a wrestler. I could accept that. And I gotta say, I was kind of shocked by Bundy's promo here because he was fairly articulate. I feel like when we see him in the WWF, he's just speaking in very short sentences, like a big dumb giant.
5.
Where he was right, things like 5, but like here he was just talking like a normal person. So that kind of took me back, and I kind of enjoyed it.
Did you guys see King Kong Bundy last week? Was he on the show or?
Yeah, he wrestled last week and was
Squash
actually
match.
pretty decent.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was better looking than we have ever seen him in the WWF.
Yeah. He was against a guy called the Monk, a jobber from Parts Unknown.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. It was one of the better matches from last week.
yeah.
Wow. Well, young King Kong Bundy, he has some hair. He doesn't have the bald look yet. He kind of looks like Farva from Super Troopers.
Shenanigans?
If he had a mustache. I don't think he had a mustache, but if he did, he would be a large Farva. Yeah, this is where I thought to myself, like, holy shit, this guy is going to be main eventing WrestleMania with Hulk Hogan in like 4 years from here. So
Yep.
Yeah.
that's pretty crazy. So I don't know. You got to give Vince McMahon credit for probably convincing him, hey, gain a little bit more weight, shave your head and look like a monster, and I'll put you at the top with Hulk Hogan. So hard to believe when seeing this that would happen eventually.
I wonder if he had to convince him to put on more weight, though.
Well, he sent him to Duke University, and the weight just magically just increased.
He sent him to reverse fat camp. We need you to put weight on.
That's what fat camp ended up being for everybody.
Well, at least for Yoko.
Yeah, and Vader.
Paul.
Yes.
I don't want a large Farva. I want a liter of cola.
It's for a cop.
You burger punk. All right. That was a nice break from the action here. Oh, let's get back into it with our next match. Wild Bill Irwin with Captain Frank Dusek defeats Jesse Relampago Leon by pinfall. And we switched it up this time with Wild Bill No Pants being in the action, and he brought a whip to the ring. He was cracking it during the introductions. That was about the only interesting thing going on here. Gene Goodson fucked up and said he was there with Jose Lothario rather than Fritz Von Erich, the owner of the fucking company.
That helped out his employment.
In that last promo, Gene really started to sweat, but you could tell it was starting to get on, like his nerves were starting to fray here. He was starting to really lose it. Wild Bill No Pants is one of the laziest sellers I have ever seen. And when it comes to a lack of flash, Jesse Leon is no slouch either. To heap shit upon shit here, referee Bronco Lubitsch gave an incredibly lazy 3 count at the end of this. I remember that being a problem with him last week, too. It's like he doesn't really feel like getting down on the mat. He doesn't really feel like keeping any cadence. He doesn't feel like making a slapping sound. He just kind of lazily lays his palm upon the mat while bending over to tie his shoelace.
Yeah, he's like down on one, he's on one knee when he's doing it. It's very weird.
Very anticlimactic. So that was the end of this. Joe, I was hoping that this would maybe follow the same formula that last episode did, with the matches increasing in quality incrementally over the course of the episode. But this match threw that hope right out the window. What did you think of it?
Yeah, your hopes and dreams were shattered here because this was complete trash. Way too many wrist locks for me, brother. And the endings of these matches they're kind of like those old video games where it's just like a quick pin. There's no there's no finisher moves here. The guy getting pinned is still kind of kicking while he's being pinned all the time. So it's kind of funny to watch.
Yeah, I will say it was marginally better than the first match. Not like it was good or anything, but Wild Bill at least had a slightly better look. He had a little bit of definition to himself. So I'll give him that. But to not really spend much time on the match, I'm going to go back to before when I talked about how, I think it was 2 episodes ago with you, Joe, and I talked about the Star Show Hills. With starring the guy from the Green Arrow CW show.
Yep.
Well, after watching 2 of these episodes, I think you were absolutely correct in that they were using the Von Erichs as kind of a outline for some of their stories. And the reason why is because right down to this Wild Bill character, because in the show, there's a guy, a former wrestler, an old guy who wrestled with his dad of the main character, whose name was Wild Bill. So it's like they were even pulling in some of the gimmicks from the Von Erichs territory. So that's kind of interesting. He even had the mustache. He came out and basically did the same thing in the ring. So I thought that was kind of cool. At this point, Joe, you were absolutely correct. They had to be using the Von Erichs to write some of their stories. But Joe, I also agree with you at the end with these quote unquote finishes, because Wild Bill gets a victory after a body drop from the second rope. Like it was nothing special whatsoever. And that's enough to get a guaranteed victory. Nowadays, even a high flying move off the top rope is basically just a run of the mill move. But back in 82, that gets you a victory.
Yeah. Wild Bill really living up to that name. All right. We had another promo segment up next with Gene Goodson going to manager Gary Hart, who introduced the greatest athlete in the world today, the great Kabuki. And Gary Hart did an okay job here, putting Kabuki over as knowing every single style of martial arts known to man, including that elusive ninja style. While Gary Hart was talking Kabuki up, Kabuki was drooling and spitting that green shit all over himself and bending his double-jointed creepy fingers for the camera there. And that's it. This was a pretty short interview segment, but Joe, I wanted to go to you first here. Last week, Ryan and I were reasonably impressed with the great Kabuki, minus the armpit pinches. And we had mentioned how both Kabuki and Gary Hart are names you hear brought up in all of the big name industry podcasts today. So Have you ever seen a Kabuki match before this? And what did you think of this introduction to both Kabuki and Gary Hart?
Yeah, I'm in a complete agreement. I hear these names a lot on Jim Cornette podcast especially, and I've never seen Kabuki in action. I've never seen Gary Hart. I've seen pictures maybe, but never saw him working as a manager here in this particular instance. And I thought this was pretty good because I put myself back in 1982. Does it hold up well now? Not so much, but I would think that if you're flipping the channels in 1982, that this would look kind of cool. It's much, much different than what you saw in the half hour before this, for sure. This is entertainment. This is the entertainment piece of the show that is not realistic. So I thought it was pretty good.
I still agree with what I said last week in that the Great Kabuki is by far the best gimmick and story going on in the WCCW. Like, this is a legitimate gimmick. He is playing it well. He's got the mask on. He's got green spit drooling out of his mouth all over him. I thought he looked great in the parlance of its time, but I'm still liking the Great Kabuki's look.
Yeah.
There's Japanese wrestlers like to this day that still honor Kabuki by using that mist. There's a girl, her name's Asuka. She's a current wrestler. She does it too. I did some research. This particular gimmick for Kabuki was adopted in 1981, so it's fairly new here.
Okay.
Gary Hart, I guess, came up with the idea. Gary Hart was actually booking for WCCW, I guess, during this time, so I thought that was pretty interesting.
Okay. Well, let's see if that carries over into the match here. Let's go into our next match. The Great Kabuki with Gary Hart versus Kerry Von Erich ends in double disqualification. I could have sworn that I heard Fritz Von Erich giving angry orders to people and Gene Goodson off mic all through this. Like he was putting his hand over the microphone and yelling at people. I would like to imagine that he was telling Gene Goodson to get his shit together, and that's why Gene appeared so distracted throughout this episode and sweating profusely.
Go back to Price is Right.
Roddy Goodson. It was nice to finally get some talent here that actually had ring skills, but I do have to say that Kabuki is just fucking gross, man. Drooling all over himself and Kerry when Kerry had Kabuki in that bear hug. It was just, so gross. Very profuse green drool all over the place. I thought Kabuki's work looked good here. I wish his physique was a little better, especially in contrast to Kerry Von Erich, my God. Because Kabuki does have that in-shape, out-of-shape old man look to him. And I should have expected it, but I found Fritz Von Erich to be especially insufferable during this. Apparently, there's some kind of repeating history where Kabuki has taken away varying percentages of visual acuity from members of the Von Erich family, including Fritz himself. They've all lost a
become tradition.
Percentage of eye to Kabuki. Kabuki brought out the armpit pinch, and it was no more entertaining than it was the last time. We did get some really great visuals of Kabuki's nasty face during this when Kerry had Kabuki in a rear headlock. That's something that we didn't see last week in Kabuki's squash match, because the posture that he carries himself with, his hair is down in his face, and really helps to carry the mystique of the gimmick. And as I said, that was a squash match, so he wasn't really working up a sweat there. Here against Kerry locks in that rough-looking rear headlock, and we get the hair out of Kabuki's face, and we see the face paint. We see the way that it like melts with his sweat and the green shit coming out of his mouth, and that was a really cool visual. During the second armpit hold, we got a really good view of the obscene amount of back acne all over Kerry Von Erich's back. I really wish I knew what caused that. It's a mystery to me.
It's protein shakes, I think.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, creatine.
Yeah, all that extra oil he's injecting into his system isn't doing it at all.
Yeah. It was just a stripe.
And by
of acne
oil, I mean gas.
Going straight down his back, man. Whole way down from fucking neck to waist.
I think it's a whey isolate protein powder.
They sell it at GNC. I mean, it's
they
it's
do.
Very
Yeah,
common.
yeah.
I don't even know if they had protein powder then, but you know what they did have back in 1982?
Anabolic steroids.
Anabolic steroids.
No. They had protein. It just wasn't as advanced as it is now. It caused all this acne.
That's why he was breaking out.
Yeah,
that's it.
I have to just have a small aside here. Like, you could have health class back in high school, and I remember Big Mac, our health class teacher, talking about steroids and side effects, shrinking your balls, and having acne all over your back. And like, I took it for what it was. Just like, yeah, okay, Mac, sure, I believe you because I don't have any reason not to. But then I saw this, and this was fucking like, I don't know what the hell Kerry Von Erich's back spelled out in Braille, but it was a fucking novel. Like, it was all over the place. GNC, readily available.
Yep.
Anyway, I saw that and I was like, God damn. Okay.
He is a jacked motherfucker, though. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
So not to be outdone with the whole armpit pinch thing, Kerry put the iron claw on Kabuki's gut, which was no more impressive than the armpit hold. I don't know anything about the iron claw as a move. I thought it was supposed to be applied directly to the forehead. I didn't know that that's something that you could apply to the gut as well, so I'm learning new things. Now. Yeah.
It could be applied anywhere.
Sure.
I guess it's all about grip strength, really. You're right, yeah.
As long as it's legal.
Well, things fell apart at the end of this because Fritz Von Erich went down to the ring to rescue Kerry after some kind of interference. I don't know. It all looked pretty horrible until the police had to come in and break things up. Some police leading Kabuki out and others there with Fritz and Kerry while Fritz was yelling at the referees. And we had to get a word from ring announcer Mark Lawrence, letting us and the crowd know that this was a double DQ finish. The crowd did not like that. So, Ryan, the cascade of shit just keeps pouring with this finish. What'd you think of this?
Well, I really hated the finish. There's no doubt about that. But I did think this was the best match of the night, to kind of tip my hand here. The great Kabuki looks good. His gimmick looks good. Kerry Von Erich looks like a professional wrestler, unlike anyone we've seen tonight or last week. The dude, as we've mentioned in great detail over his steroid use, he's got the fucking body of a wrestler. There's no doubt about that. And I thought that this was a fairly entertaining match at the beginning. The great Kabuki gets into, I guess this is the second modified version of the Vulcan Nerve Pinch, because last week he was doing the armpit pinch from behind, where this time it was from the front. So it's a little bit different. And thankfully, he didn't sit in the armpit pinch as long as he did in the last match either. He'd get it in for a little bit, but then Kerry would find a way to counter it and land some moves. So I thought that part was fine. At some point, though, here, and I think it was when, right after the Iron Claw was applied and Fritz started to make his way down to the ring, the crowd started to chant what sounded again like no means no. I don't know what they're chanting here. It seems like it's any time the Von Erichs are out there. So I tried to listen, but it still just sounds like no means no. So I don't know what the fuck they're trying to chant. But I really dislike the ending. The way it just kind of dissolved into nothing. But I wasn't crazy about the finish, but I thought the match itself was the best we've seen so far tonight.
Maybe it was like go, Kerry, go or something like that. I don't know. I couldn't tell.
No means no.
Yeah. Well, Kerry certainly did not say no to the steroid needle, that's for sure. He's looking pretty jacked. Look, business is about to pick up when the Von Erichs are in the ring.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. So this was good to see. Kerry Von Erich, he's also selling the fear of the green mist very well, I thought, in this match. He was purposely not putting his body in a position where he would get the green mist in his face. So that was cool to see. Also selling Kabuki's kicks very well. Kabuki's kicks looked really good, and Kerry was doing a nice job of selling them. So you could definitely tell the crowd picks up when the Von Erichs are out there too. So it's just a different energy. And my God, just look at the guy compared to everyone else that you've seen tonight. Yeah. I mean, there's just no comparison. Yeah. You guys are calling it the armpit pinch, but it looks like a move that I use on my wife, just grabbing and squeezing the pecs. Kerry knows how to use the crowd too. He's doing a nice job of understanding, like, okay, like I'm the fucking guy here. This crowd is behind me, and he's working the crowd, getting them fired up, which was cool. Fritz getting involved is okay. He's old as fuck and his punches look like shit, but it did get the crowd pretty fired up, so I guess it worked. It did its job.
And it should be noted that it's entirely possible that Kerry was maybe injured and prescribed steroids.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure he was prescribed them.
In his doctor's care, yeah, always.
I'm not saying his doctor was completely on the up and up, but I bet he was prescribed them, yeah.
He gets paid in cartons of cigarettes, and his office is behind a dumpster.
Dr. Goodson.
Let's go now to the other Von Erich boy in our next match. Kevin Von Erich defeats Carlos Zapata by submission. And here's where I had noted that what immediately jumped out to me is that Carlos Zapata is billed as being from Cuba and uses the green fatigues and Cuban cigar gimmick, despite there already being somebody on the card that was actually named Castro. Like, who was in charge?
That's what threw me off.
Where's the agent that could have said to Carlos, like, nah, you probably shouldn't do that. We've already got a Castro.
We've already got Castro's brother earlier in the card.
Fritz's absence on commentary did not improve Gene Goodson's play calling. Although I thought it was funny, I forgot to mention at the end of that last match, whenever Fritz went running down to the ring, Gene Goodson kind of sounded like Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory. Like, oh no, please don't go. Don't run away. Don't interfere, Fritz.
We all know he just got chewed out by Fritz in the last commercial, so he was happy to see him go.
Kevin Von Erich, he was my favorite Von Erich last week, so I had what I felt were reasonable expectations for this match that mostly got met. This was a squash match, a fairly short one. But we did get the news that apparently Andre the Giant is going to be coming to the world-class territory pretty soon, which explains why they've been name-dropping him so much, maybe setting up some kind of rivalry with him and Big Daddy Bundy. But that goes a long way to explaining why they just love dropping that name.
Well, and I wonder if that was kind of his step in the door into the WWF.
Yeah. If Andre liked him, I want to say that I've heard many times that Andre's opinion carried a lot of weight with Vince. So if Andre spoke favorably of Bundy, then that probably was a pretty good recommendation, all things considered. We did end up getting another lackluster finish here. Kevin got the win with some kind of abdominal scissor hold, and Carlos Zapata tapped out. So, Joe, I'm not sure what else to say other than what I thought was the best match of the night so far was lackluster. So what did you think of this one?
Well, again, it's nice to see a Von Erich out there. These guys, outside of Kevin, sadly had a short career, but just seeing these guys working in this show is like, okay, I get it. Like, I get the hype. Yeah. When you hear Pritchard and Cornette and all those guys in the wrestling circles talk so highly, it's no wonder they had a movie about them. They're in the Hall of Fame and all that stuff. So totally get it. Kevin's a great worker. Looks great. This is supposedly the early days of the Von Erichs, too. I guess their big feud with the Freebirds happened between like 82 and 85. This is almost like WCCW compared to WWF, like 1996, where it's like just short of that big boom for them. So I thought the standing leg scissor move was kind of cool, but these finishes to these matches are still so odd to me. Like, they just happen out of nowhere, and it's just like, okay, it's over. Like, there's no big celebration really or anything. Like, it's just so weird how quick it happens.
This match, you both kind of hit the nail on the head here. It's when the Von Erichs, any of the Von Erichs are involved, the match is at least serviceable. And even though Carlos Zapata came out with his Fidel Castro gimmick and wasn't very good in the ring, Kevin did a good job of keeping my interest in the match. Gene Goodson, or Goodson.
Yeah.
Fuck him again. Like, God, did he love saying Zapata. He's like every 2 seconds is Zapata. He just kept on throwing it in there. I'm so glad that people saw the shittiness in his commentary and decided to toss him aside, because he really is bad. Now, you both kind of talked about the anticlimactic finish in the body scissors here, and I can understand it. It's not exactly a impressive move, especially by today's standards, but for me, it really brought me back to my childhood because my dad would always put the body scissors on me and my brother when we were like wrestling.
Yeah.
So it was something he clearly knew and remembered from his youth, which makes sense. The Von Erichs and stuff coming from so long ago. So it hit a special nostalgia string with me, the body scissors. The moment I saw it, I just got a smile from ear to ear.
Firsthand, how devastating.
Devastating.
It is. It's devastating.
What a maneuver.
What a maneuver. Overall anticlimactic, but because of that, I didn't hate it.
Boy, Gene makes you think maybe Vince wasn't so bad on commentary.
No, don't say that. No.
I don't know.
No, Vince was horrible. It doesn't matter, like, how bad Gene is. Like, it won't ever make up or compensate for Vince.
We had how many years of him on the mic compared
yeah.
to 4 weeks? As I said last week, too, to Bartlett, that makes Gene Goodson kind of the Rob Bartlett of
Yeah.
the WCCW, that he's only there for a handful of weeks before they toss
Is
him.
it just like a couple more weeks after this that he's gone? Is that what you said?
Well, from what I read, it was episode 4. So
Okay.
since the next episode that Peacock has is episode 7, they jump a few here after this one. I think we're going to miss his departure, unfortunately.
All right, so Fritz inserted himself on commentary so he could observe and fire his ass after
He didn't
seeing.
like what he saw.
Yeah.
He psyched him out. Gene Goodson was too weak on the play call and got psyched out
Yes.
by Fritz's presence and just lost it. He crumbled,
Yes.
choked up.
Shit the bed.
Yep. I do want to just quickly, for the record, throw it out there. Kevin Von Erich is still my favorite Von Erich. And I get it with Kerry being a much bigger body than Kevin, but Kevin is no twig. Kevin is in ridiculous shape.
And much better on the mic.
Kevin is much better on the mic. I feel that Kevin Von Erich is the total package, whereas Kerry is slightly lacking. Not totally, but slightly lacking. And it just really surprises me that Kevin Von Erich never got called up to the big leagues, to WWF or anything like that, because Kevin really does have a ton of talent.
Not entirely surprising knowing Vince, though. He really loves the big bodies, the big muscle guys.
Yeah.
So it's not shocking that Vince would.
Yeah.
I guess Kevin has always been known as the leader of the group, but I think Kerry was probably just more popular just because he did work for Vince, and he actually, he was like a IC champ and stuff, so he was had some success there.
I suppose Kevin might have been able to get up there if he would have been able to grab himself a cycle or two, but Kerry hogged them all, so.
There was none left in North America after Kerry was done with it.
All right, guys, let's go into our final match of the night. Jose Lothario and Tom Boogaloo Shaft versus Tim Brooks and Armand Hussein ends in a time limit draw. I think last week the no means no chant happened during the Von Erich versus Tim Brooks and Armand Hussein match, because I think I remember saying that no means no sounds more appropriate for Tim Brooks.
For Tim Brooks,
he looks like a date rapist.
Right. So it must be something with the Von Erichs
that
they're saying. So I don't know.
I did not see the ceremonial camel walk that is required of all African champions or whatever the hell that was that we got last week.
Or no, any Muslim competing in any sporting event
has to do the camel walk ceremonially.
Yeah.
Gene Goodson told us that last week, and
you learn something new every week watching him call these shows.
Gene Goodson called Tom Boogaloo Shaft Boogaloo Johnson at one point.
Well, Shaft Johnson, same
motherfucker.
Thing. Right.
Yeah, very close.
Jose Lothario, he finally got tagged in, and we get to see what the big deal there was. I didn't see what the big deal was, but the opportunity for us to see what the big deal was there. And I wish I could say that they saved the best for last, but apparently we got the best with Kevin Von Erich's squash match right before this. In my opinion, the better of the two Von Erich matches. Which shouldn't be surprising. Certainly there was no chance that Tim Brooks, Armand Hussein, or Boogaloo Shaft could have improved in a week. week. They sucked last week. They sucked this week. And I think we all know that Jose Lothario was going to be no help in this. Things turned into what passes for a schmoz in WCCW, I guess, at the end of this. But then, much like every other finish in this episode, whatever energy they had built up just dissolved like toilet paper in the bowl. So, Ryan, as I said, 3 of the 4 men in the ring here were already known quantities. But this was our first experience with Jose Lothario in action. What did you have on this?
Right out of the hole, I knew from watching last week's episode that Ahmed Hussein and Tim Brooks, they were going to be okay. They're seasoned veterans. They know what they're doing. But Jose Lothario is a million years old, and Tom Boogaloo Shaft just downright fucking sucks in the ring. We know that from last week. Unfortunately, the match lived up exactly to my expectations. Boogaloo Shaft started things off and just looked like the fucking drizzling shits. He really looks bad. I don't know what they're trying to do with his strongman or tough man competition bullshit things that he's supposedly in, but it doesn't help anything with his gimmick. This was very boring. Lots of rest holds, arm bars, headlocks, lots of stalling. And then the ending was we ran out of time. A time limit draw.
Torturous 10
was the
minutes.
fucking end of this match. Yeah, I can't believe that this was the main event, the final match of the night. Why wasn't it Kerry Von Erich or Kevin Von Erich's match? Either of those two would have at least been serviceable main events, but this was not.
Yeah, they didn't send them home happy here. For some reason, Armand Hussein stuck out for me with how fucking horrible he was. I thought he looked so fucking bad. And this whole thing really, it all looks old-timey for 1982. Like their body styles, like they're like shaped like a barrel. And
yeah. Say if you could call it a body style.
Yeah, this is clearly a time where the business is shifting towards the Kevin and Kerry Von Erich style of, as far as the physical looks of the business, and these guys are just way past their prime. I hope they're all old. I know Jose is. I'm assuming the other ones are too, but this might sound like I'm kidding, but I'm not. I swear I think this. Jay Leno in WCW, remember when he had a match with, I think he was teamed up with DDP? Jay Leno looked better as a wrestler than Armand Hussein did here. Absolutely terrible.
William Shatner's monkey roll.
Yes. Time limit draw. Are you fucking kidding me? This is just absolute torture.
Send us home on a time limit draw.
Painful. Why would anybody tune in next week to this garbage?
Who the fuck wrote this finish? I'd like to know.
Gary Hart, apparently. Yeah, let's close this bitch out.
Moving along.
The end. Gene Goodson gives us what is possibly the only redeeming thing about the entire episode, saying that no matter where you are, go out and support your local wrestling, which we did call out last week as being an excellent statement, an excellent sentiment that I think we can all continue to get behind.
I agree, but did you notice he even flubbed that up?
Then my next line was, that is before flubbing the rest of his outro, and we faded to black. So, Joe, this is your first time discussing World Class with us here on the podcast, and without giving away any highlights or lowlights just yet, what are your overall thoughts and opinions now that you've been exposed to Gene Goodson, Boogaloo Shaft, and the rest of World Class Championship Wrestling?
I'm going to make a quick guess on how Joe feels.
He's gotta puke! He's gotta puke!
He's gonna regurgitate. Yeah, this was awful. I hated most of this. So the Von Erichs, I will say, there are some times where we watch some of this stuff and you think, okay, I get the hype. If you're a wrestling fan, you go back and watch Shawn Michaels singles matches, or you go back and watch the birth of Stone Cold Steve Austin. You're like, all right, I get the hype. Like it holds up. I'll say that about the Von Erichs. Just seeing them in action here, it's like, all right, I get the hype. I understand why they were so big in this territory. But man, outside of those two guys, This is just not, it's really hard to watch.
I was glad it was 44 minutes.
I had the trigger on that fast forward button and I wanted to press it so bad, but I didn't. I made it through. It was hard. I wish I was back in the pokey, to be honest with you.
What Netflix was forcing you to watch was better.
Yes. Rob Bartlett highlights.
Ryan, any closing thoughts on the episode here?
I guess I kind of agree with Joe here. We got the Von Erichs. They're cool to see because, as you stated, they do. They live up to the hype. But we were fed a whole lot of shit tonight.
Yeah.
And it was tough to wade through at times.
Yeah.
Did you guys see Kabuki last week, or was this the first time that...
We did, but against the jobber.
Okay. Kabuki was kind of cool. It's kind of like a Papa Shango type thing of
Yeah.
We had Papa Shango, and I guess people born, 10 years before us would have had Kabuki.
Yeah.
It was kind of a similar vibe there.
He's a good gimmick. There's no doubt about that.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of seeing what people saw in these workers, I know we didn't get it in this episode, but last week's squash match from Big Daddy Bundy, if you feel so inclined, Joe, go back and take a look at that because he actually looked really good. But what Bundy did in the WWF was just absolute night and day compared to how he was working here. He was actually enjoyable to watch in his match, and you could see why he did the loop around the territories and wound up making big money at WWF. Like, he clearly has wrestling talent. He
looked like a legitimate monster last week.
Interesting.
I'm hoping that we get some more action with him in the future here if we wind up watching any more of these episodes, so you can see that too, because it was really neat to see him, the Von Erichs, Kabuki, these names that had a pretty big reputation and then never really materialized in the same way during the era when we were watching it. All right, well, as I said, we faded to black, so let's take it on over to highlights and lowlights. Ryan, why don't you take that first?
Well, my highlight, we've been saying for the last half hour of this episode, my highlight is the Von Erichs. Both of them delivered, in my opinion. They were the most entertaining part of tonight was watching either one of them. I thought they both looked good. So they were my highlight. My low light, though, was this final match. It was slow, boring. We had a 98-year-old Jose Lothario out there that looked fucking terrible. Fucking Boogaloo Shaft. It was a recipe for disaster, and it delivered on that. It was most certainly my low light of the night.
Yeah, we're going to line up almost identical. I for my highlight, I'm going to go with Kabuki versus Kerry Von Erich, but I want to throw Kevin Von Erich in there too because I enjoyed watching him. And low light is it's the last match. It's just four people who look like absolute garbage and and taking it to the time limit is just like, are you kidding me? That's the absolute worst decision.
I'm sorry, Joe. I got to interrupt you. You were out of time.
Yeah, just horrible decision to take that to a time limit.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to my 18%er roots and diverge from the both of you here. While I do not have any specific problems with the Von Erichs, I felt that they were kind of buried in the muck that was the rest of this episode, unfortunately for them. And I felt that I really had to dig deep for a highlight, and I ended up going with the news that Andre the Giant's going to be coming into world-class wrestling soon. So, like, depending on what happens in the future for us, we may end up getting to talk about an Andre the Giant match from 1982. Like, that's pretty fucking cool to me. That's exciting.
I must have misheard what they said because I thought Andre was going to be on this episode.
And we're severely disappointed.
Imagine the disappointment, yeah.
For my low light, I could easily go with the majority of the show, but I'm actually going to narrow it down to Fritz Von Erich on commentary. He was just kind of an asshole. And did nothing
he was
at all.
Pissed off about Gene Goodson.
He's in character. He's Mr. Von Erich here.
He didn't do anything to actually promote his promotion. It made me not like it. Like, I hope to never hear from him again, ever.
He's missing 20% of his vision in his right eye.
He drew the cops, too. Like, The cops had to come and contain him.
He couldn't see the producer making the hand gesture motion saying that your time is up, Fritz. Your time is up.
It also took him like 3 hours to get down to the ring.
Yes.
Yeah, where are they located at? Not next to the ring, apparently.
It seems like they're up in what would be the announcer's booth for like the way that the place is laid out. It reminded me of where the media booth
WCW.
is in like a football stadium. It's like all the way up at the top of the bleachers overlooking the ring.
Kind of WCW weren't at the ring, right? They were like at the top of the ramp or whatever.
Yeah.
Like a
So maybe something like
Well,
that.
seeing how long it took him, I don't even think Fritz was in Texas. He was flying in from like Florida or something. I don't know. It took him forever.
Yeah, he looked old enough to be residing in Florida.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that wraps up this episode. You guys have anything else you wanted to add here?
No, I think we covered it.
Yeah, nothing from me. It's hard to believe that this promotion went from this to entertaining huge crowds when
anything.
They had that Von Erich Freebird feud that went on for a few years. Like it's hard to believe that they got there just from watching this.
Yeah.
I guess we could say that, but if we went back and looked at some of our 93, 94 Raw episodes, you could probably make that same argument. Like,
right.
I can't believe this is going to make it to the 98, 99, 2000 levels of greatness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Well put. Very well put. And with that, we are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW. Just add @gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. And we do want to hear from you, your thoughts on these WCCW episodes. These are more or less kind of filler for us before we iron out our...
Supplemental.
Yeah,
episodes.
Supplemental is a good way. Much the same way that Kerry supplements his physique with GNC supplements.
Vitamins, just vitamins.
That's all vitamin D, baby. Vitamin A for anabolic. All right.
Creatine.
Yeah. Chocolate flavored powder. You can check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you whenever we feel like recording them right now.
Yeah.
Give us a 5-star review and tell all of your friends to tune in to the most insert adjective here Monday Night Raw review podcast, maybe one of these days soon on the airwaves. Next week, or next time we record on Wrasslin Raw, I would imagine we're probably going to be doing the next episode of WCCW. Haven't really gotten there yet in our planning, but while we're sorting everything out, that is the tentative thought amongst us. Don't forget that these episodes of WCCW can be found on Peacock still, as well as the Wrasslin channel on YouTube. That's Wrasslin with an R. So, for Joe, for Ryan, I'm Jason. It's Wrasslin Raw.